4 years ago, a group of computer professionals in the United States created a site on the internet where like-minded people could build a community using the latest three-dimensional technology. They called it AlphaWorld. Today, what started as a plaything has become a city-state the size of California and is but one among hundreds of virtual worlds inhabited by hundreds of thousands of computer users worldwide. This program is a journey through those communities, a travelogue if you like, and an attempt to discover what happens when the normal rules don't apply, when reality and imagination collide. It's a journey that begins prosaically enough. Anyone with a reasonably powerful computer and internet connection can make it. www.activeworlds.com gets you started.
Welcome to Active Worlds. Enter a name and you will be assigned a temporary tourist visa. Who would you like to be today?
So I'll just type in Richard.
Welcome to Gateway, Richard.
The Gateway offers a choice of 400 virtual worlds. The first, the biggest, and the one I'm about to click on is AlphaWorld. As the screen clears, what opens up in front of me is a three-dimensional image of a crossroads apparently built of red brick. Directly ahead is a large electronic board announcing to residents that the BBC is making this programme. Beyond lie green fields and, in the distance, mountains. The sky is blue.
Welcome to AlphaWorld. Enjoy building in this world, and please observe and respect our content guidelines. Note, the use of auto-building tools in AlphaWorld is still prohibited.
In the foreground of my screen, various figures are moving. These are other computer users. They could be anywhere on Earth. Some are detailed colour representations of people. They're citizens. Others appear as black silhouettes carrying cameras like me. They're tourists. The figures walk, wave, and even dance. They can see me, I can see them. Their conversation appears as text at the bottom of my screen. Somewhat unexpectedly, I feel like a latecomer at a party who finds fellow guests already engrossed in conversation.
Is this your place, River? It's nice.
Well, for now, I'm mourning the loss of a lover who passed away.
Sorry for not talking that much, River.
I'm looking to move on.
Move to me.
That's okay, right? Are you shy?
Me?
I am in real life, yeah.
Or just not interested?
Hello, Red.
Hiya, Brenda.
Is there any other females here besides me?
Let's drink Heineken and get drunk.
You're a new prime, and I bet you could make me forget.
I bet. Let me give you my address.
Okay.
How old?
This place is what's called Ground Zero, the normal entry point for any virtual world. By depressing the arrowed cursor keys on my computer keyboard, I can both look and move in any direction. On the far side of the crossroads is a newspaper stand where I've arranged to meet Simon Says, the editor of an internet newspaper called Active Worlds Watch on Sundays. In real life, he's a software and recruitment professional from Brussels. Simon Says is an avatar, or internet identity.
Hi, Richard. I'm Simon Says. That's my name here in Active Worlds. Not my real name, though. But that's how I call myself. Everybody knows me here like that.
So what exactly is happening here?
Now we're overlooking Ground Zero of AlphaWorld. It's the most used spot in the whole universe of Active Worlds. There are a few people talking to each other. A few tourists, a few citizens. Go close in. There's one peacekeeper there. Peacekeeper is a policeman in here, a moderator of the chat, who is looking if people are not using too many four-letter words or not harassing others. I'll say hi to him. I don't really know who it is, though. Hi, number 18.
You run a newspaper which I see is one of 4 available free of charge. What sort of paper is it?
Actually, it started as a joke. It's not meant serious, but after a few times there were things happening and people were telegramming me or emailing me, saying, well, I was ejected from there or there, and it wasn't right. So, and then started to come in some serious articles And some people were, from the beginning, were interested in working with me, sending in texts, building the offices. And, well, we're about 6 months far now. It started in August of 98. And, well, we have 22 issues.
And do you have a headquarters for your paper, or does it simply exist as a web address?
I have a building called ActiveWorlds Watch Offices. I'm not always sitting there, of course, because in a virtual world, time or space or the spot where you are isn't really that interesting. You want to be where the stuff happens, where people talk, or where there's something to see. I'm gonna teleport because it's way out. Flying would take us too long. That's also something you gotta realize in a virtual environment. Okay, I go back in my address book here to find ActiveWorlds Watch Office. There we are. And poof.
The headquarters of the Watch on Sunday turns out to be a large, low, modern, single-storey building surrounded by fountains and plazas, the kind of place you'd build if neither money nor land mattered. And of course here, they don't.
This is the office building. Very spacey. You see, fountains in front of it. Gives a great effect. It's rather big. Let's look at from the upper side. There's an old highway on one side, on the east side of it. So we're flying over the roof now. And that's one thing you can do in virtual or in cyberspace too. You can fly. You just don't have to run around buildings. You can fly over them. And behind the office we see the party plaza, where the big ActiveWorlds Watch on Sunday party was held a few weeks ago. That was built by USX, Silver Dragon and Xenax. A lot of things happening there. The neighbors on the other side of the road, I don't know them really. I came after them and I've never seen them.
Now, Simon, you're a citizen of some years' standing. I'm just a sightseer. What would you recommend I looked at next?
Okay, let's go to one of the special worlds. So we're going to another world there. We're gonna just choose from the worlds list and take one that I know that is very nice. So here we have winter. Click.
Welcome to winter. This week's featured build is Free Play Mansion. Attention to the northeast and northwest. You'll find roads going in all over.
It's a very nice scenery, all snowy, and you can virtually ski there. Yeah, we got fir trees, and snow on the ground, mountains covered with snow in the background, and it's still loading. You see here in that little window on the top of the screen there what's loading. So there are files that are being downloaded from the server.
As the world of winter takes shape around us, we've teleported across the empty landscape to a vast cathedral of a church. It looms from the snow, part Gothic, part Kremlin, with a dash of Disney too. As we close in, we can see the astonishingly detailed brick and stonework that's gone into its construction. The stained glass windows glow and flicker amid the bleakness, as if 1,000 candles burned inside.
Very beautiful building. It's one of the most beautiful buildings I've ever seen here. It has a reality that you don't see very often in cyberspace, I think. While now we are circling around on the outside, we're flying. See here, it's very beautiful with brick walls. Let's go just through the wall like a ghost and take a peek inside. See, I find this great. This has the atmosphere it has to have. It could be built like that in our world. I mean, you could very well imagine that this is really a church somewhere.
Well, someone's been to a great deal of trouble to build this church. Inside, it's as spectacular as outside. The floor is of a cold blue marble. Above, soaring walls and sort of internal flying buttresses are built from smoothly cut blue stone. Apart from us, it's quite empty. Architectural spectaculars like the Cathedral of Winter are found throughout the virtual universe. There are so many, tens of thousands, that no one person can visit them all. You either stumble on them by accident or you're shown them by others. I spent an hour or two with Simon while his wife and young son went to fitness class, visiting not only Alpha World and Winter, but Mars and Yellowstone too. But now I'm back in Alpha World to meet one of its most famous sons. The place is Sherwood Forest, once a thriving community, a kind of cyberspace Frank Capra idealization of a Midwestern American town. Today, it's largely abandoned. Houses stand empty and vandalized. The walls are covered with graffiti. Standing in the ruins is Digi Gardner, the avatar of Bruce Damer, a Californian virtual reality guru and author of the key work about avatars. He was in at the birth of the universe way back in 1995.
It was originally called the Alpha World Project. It was started as a Skunk Works project by 2 or 3 people, including the main programmers. Only one programmer at the beginning named Ronald Britvich. And he kind of sat at home using a little basic Windows PC on a very slow modem connection to create a 3D world where anyone could come in and build. And from day one, when Ron actually hadn't opened the world to the public, it gives you an idea of the power of the thing, he was walking along and he just created the citizenship idea that he could be citizen number 1. He wanted to be citizen number 1. But he logged into his server, and he hadn't published where the server was, and he looked up and it said citizen number 6. He said, what's happening here? And he walked along, he looked around, and the avatars were very simple and there were very few objects. And he saw these people coming toward him in their avatars, and he was like spellbound. Somebody else is in here. I'm not citizen number 1. Someone else has beat me to it. And they walked up to him and they said, come and see our castle that we've built. And Ron was just like stuck in his chair. What's happening? This is surreal. And he walked and followed them. They had built a castle. And he said, how did you guys figure out how to build the castle? Well, there were just parts lying around. We fit them together. And Ron later made himself citizen 1, but from that day on, there was an explosion, and hundreds of millions of objects were placed in these worlds. There was a huge explosion that occurred in front of his eyes as these worlds filled up with people and places that people built.
And what about Sherwood Forest? How did that come about?
We basically opened Sherwood in July '96 with the garden party here in Laurel's herb garden.
And we're actually in a herb garden. There's this sort of small box hedge, and in it you can see kind of sages and basils. And Digi Gardner has gone for a little walk now out into another part of the garden. We've flown up above it so we can see it happening below us and in front of us.
And we've just been joined by a wonderful lady from Dallas, Texas, My Two Keys. And I don't think she's ever been to historic Sherwood before. And I've just typed in and told her that we're doing a tour of historic Sherwood with the BBC here. And she said, okay, with a little smiley face.
So we've come into an area which looks like something from an Icelandic saga almost. There's this floor space, and in the middle of it there's this, looks like a pale blue marble roundel, a stage almost. We're standing on that. We're surrounded by these sort of giant stone egg cups, which presumably is where a council might meet.
Yes, this is our talking circle, which these stone pots are where avatars would individually stand, and the speaker would be in the center, and everyone would look at themselves from high above.
Does that say something about the purpose of Sherwood, that it does seem to be... I mean, you're clearly not in a game space here. There seems to be something about the way humans relate to each other.
Yeah, I mean, there's another talking area down further into the forest, but the fundamental purpose of Sherwood is to create a consensual community around a common theme, which is to build a town, an Old English town, and find out what happens.
I built a stone house with a big garden around it and a big fence with lots of plants and giant stepping stones in the ground, things like that.
Well, now we've been joined by Nancy, the avatar of Nancy Ziedemer, a Sherwood Forest pioneer and one of its leading citizens.
We tried to set up a town government. We had a town manager. We had someone who was in charge of parceling out the land and seeing that people got only a certain amount of homestead space. We wanted to see how people would interact. We held town meetings. We had town building times like old-fashioned barn raisings. People would come together online and start building things, and other people would go and say, well, why not this? Why not that? Let me help you. And so we tried to make it as old-fashioned community as possible.
And what did you discover as events unfolded and as the place developed and grew?
It was different. It was, as hard as we tried to make it old-fashioned, it wasn't. It was new because it was using new technology. We were working with a group of people, for the most part, who were younger. We noticed that there were a lot of teenagers and younger adults that were there. They didn't have the old-fashioned memories.
But if Nancy Ziedemer was a model Alpha World citizen, her husband Roger was not. Under the avatar Coyote, he set about gently disrupting Sherwood Forest's sylvan glades.
I guess I don't really think of Coyote as a bad person. I wasn't a student, I was working full-time. I didn't have the same kind of time to develop, and therefore I didn't get the same kind of community role that a lot of people got. You know, I wasn't a builder, I wasn't a magistrate, I wasn't a contractor or even the newspaper editor. So I come from the outside, and my plan was, here's this idyllic little box, and they were building a community that was just like what you'd see on 1950s television. So I really wanted to push people out of that box, and I wanted to give them something to think about, something to stress about, because I think people maybe they work a little bit or under a little bit of stress.
So what kind of things did Coyote do?
I would go into the worlds at off times when group activities weren't happening. I'd use another avatar name and login, and I would move things around. I would spell out my name in hedgerows in a big field, or I would, in somebody's building, I would lift their walls up off the ground. Things like that.
There were pictures taken of the vandalism and articles in the newspaper about Coyote, and a town meeting called to talk about what we were going to do, and I don't think anybody really thought that it was somebody from inside the community. They were all trying to figure out how someone from outside could get in and do something, because we knew that you couldn't build on someone else's lot.
Did you enjoy the kind of covert operations aspect, adopting somebody else's identity, a different avatar, and going in and causing havoc?
Actually, I'm afraid I really did enjoy it. Probably more than I should have.
Well, someone else who enjoyed the mischief was Jim Fanaro, an anthropologist at Cabrillo College, California. He was fascinated by the way the residents of Sherwood Forest, many of them Silicon Valley computer experts, started behaving like homesteaders, turning their community into an internet Smallsville, USA.
I was overjoyed to meet Coyote. I watched people and the enthusiasm that they brought to building their environments, the excitement that occurred when there was a wedding, and the way they reacted as a parochial little community in the Midwest of the United States when it came to certain basic things like vandalism. How dare anybody do that? String them up.
And what happened to Sherwood eventually?
Well, Sherwood got so much press, and there were teleporters from what's called Ground Zero, which is where newbies and people sort of flood through into the original old Alpha world. And there was a big gateway that said Sherwood, so people poured into Sherwood. We had a series of parties there. People would go and walk through Sherwood, and we would meet them and tour them. But then the town sort of started to get less and less habited. You could sort of see tumbleweeds blowing through it, and until one day the neighbors' cobbles, it was called, were all vandalized by a gang called the Anarchy. Then, worse, we had a booby trap teleporter, which is a 2x2 pixel glowing purple thing, was stuck right at the front gate where people landed from Ground Zero, and they would land, try to walk through the gate, and be rocketed up thousands of meters into the air in a random direction, and then start falling. It'll fall for 20 minutes. And this teleporter had been put in by a gang called the Click.
Virtual worlds have come a long way in 4 years. Internet users can no longer build where they please, the system's no longer free. ActiveWorlds is now a public company and charges $20 a year to those who want to become citizens. Tourists can still visit for free, but they can't build, and their avatars appear only in silhouette. As the universe has expanded, so the world has become more regimented. There may be communities which look like democracies, but the shots are called ultimately by the real lords of the universe, the two men who actually run the company, Rick Knoll and J.P. McCormick. All the worlds in the ActiveWorlds universe run on a bank of computer servers at an office in Seattle. Rick and JP are just a teleport away at their corporate headquarters near Boston, Massachusetts.
The citizens are the driving force. They're the lifeblood. None of this would exist without the people to build it, the people to share it.
Has it changed your relationship, the way the company's grown? Has it changed your relationship to the worlds within ActiveWorlds?
We've gone from simply people who were establishing a technology and maybe designing a world to people who are viewed we almost have, over this universe at least, we have almost a godlike power because we control the power system and we are the ones who have to set the corporate policy.
We've become both a corporation and a government, and what I mean is we cannot treat the community like a regular corporate product because the community members just do not like that. You just cannot have harmony in a society without some kind of government system, and you just have anarchy and chaos, and that's what ActiveWorlds had become. It got so big and so popular, you just had anarchy and chaos. I mean, I remember at one point last year we had these roving bands of surfers, and they'd run in people's faces and jump on top of them, and of course it's a nuisance when you're in the tunnel because you have these avatars in front of you, and these bands would go around, and it was just amazing to see this stuff, and just like you might have in New York where you have these clans.
To help keep the peace, Rick and JP's worlds are rated according to the US system of film classification. It's meant to keep the chat clean and tempers under control, not always easy with users logging in from all over the real world, at all times of day and night, and one suspects sometimes 3 pixels short of an avatar.
Hi, Amiga.
Hi, Frosty.
Where are you two from?
Ooh, I like this song.
Florida. You?
Just flew in from New Hampshire, USA.
Where's my vodka? Please, I don't want to die. I'm all out of vodka. What now? Gin and tonic and whiskey and a cocktail? Fuck, I can't type.
Please watch your language, Eliza. This world does have a G rating.
Well, I'll try that, but I get angry easy and swearing for me is like therapy.
I'm from Germany. We can always get the #1 officer for Eliza.
Omaga, I'm not here to start a fight, so please don't start one.
Well, swearing is not something many of us appreciate, so please try. Thanks.
Yes?
Yes.
Go ahead, get an officer. What's he gonna do, ban me? I don't care, I'm a tourist. You people just need to remember that you cannot tell people what to do, especially in here.
Eliza, please calm down. We just made a simple request not to swear.
That was ground zero chat in the underwater world of Atlantis. They wouldn't like that in England, which is something completely different.
Trying to give a bit of an English feel to the place, because we've had to use all these American objects, we've tried to do some of it with music. And Liberty Bell, I felt it really does give the feeling, it's a typical English piece. It's so associated with Monty Python, you can't get away from it. And whenever you hear that music, that's the first thing you think of. And so it's by association, we like to think that helps us be a little bit more English and a little bit less American. I don't own the world. This is actually owned by somebody else, but he pays the bills. But he's very busy, so basically I, with another person, actually run the world. We decide who can build where. We control how they can build. And so that helps set the theme of the place, so we can control really how it develops from day to day.
England is a private world. You can rent a world for your own use for $93 a year and upwards and make up your own rules. Scott Arthurs, a computer professional from Northamptonshire, is a peacekeeper and also enjoys the title Governor of Wales. For some reason, Wales in this virtual world is merely a region of England. The emphasis here, as in Sherwood Forest, is on traditional values. John Major would feel quite at home even if we were unable to track down any spinsters full of warm beer cycling to evensong in cricket pads. There is, however, thatch galore and an English pub complete with a live feed from MTV. Tourist avatars show up on the screen as knights in armour. Wales has mountains and a virtual railway line which conveys visitors across the landscape to the Governor's mansion, a trip we took accompanied by the Governor himself.
Now, in England, we don't allow any really bad behaviour. It's a PG world, parental guidance world. And what we find is that a lot of people come and don't stay because they don't like the quieter environment. We're a very quiet place. We're quite friendly. We chat slowly. We talk about English things. We talk about cricket and football and things like that. So the people that tend to stick around are the people that are the same as us. So we don't exclude anybody. We don't say, you can't come in here, we're not interested in you. We're quite happy for anybody to come in, we'll talk to them. But what we find is they tend to go away after a while because they're not interested in the same things that we are. Okay, we're on the platform now at the second station, so we'll have a little walk down the road here. Now what we have here is the Governor's mansion and stables. A couple of Land Rovers, a few horses. Nice country feel to that. If we walk through the front door into the Governor's office, this is where I see all my subjects. I take building requests in here. And there's of course, a large picture of me behind the wall, and I have my desk, my chair, my seating areas. Over there's a toilet. Got to have a toilet in the Governor's office. Privilege of rank.
Now, it would be easy to dismiss 3D worlds as little more than interactive playgrounds, great if you like Lego, email, or computers, not much use otherwise. But their explosive growth yields a remarkable range of possibilities. There are X-rated worlds, for example, where you can do things undoable anywhere but in virtual reality without scaring the horses, indeed without actually touching anyone. There are now commercial worlds where you can buy products at the click of a mouse and the flex of a credit card. And there are also virtual art galleries hung with electronic images, hosting conferences and lectures. There's even a prototype university, the U. Its campus was laid out following a competition run by London architect Stuart Gold.
Virtual worlds offer great potential in the educational field because there's so many things that one can do which you can't do in real life. You can imagine maybe a scenario whereby one day a student can be sitting in their lecture room and they're totally immersed. I mean, we're talking 5-10 years away maybe, but you're totally immersed in a lecture room, and around you see students, and these students maybe 5,000 miles away. And down at the centre of the room there's a lecturer who may also be thousands of miles away. And you feel you're really there. Okay, you might say, well, that's the same as any old lecture room. But the lecturer could one day maybe click his fingers and you look down and you're dressed in Elizabethan costume and you're in an Elizabethan setting and you're with all these students who are dressed in these costumes and you're walking through an Elizabethan village and maybe watching a play, a Shakespearean play. That is really experiential learning.
Though ActiveWorlds may be the biggest provider of three-dimensional worlds, they're by no means alone. In both the US and Europe, other companies are following suit. For example, in Amsterdam, the Amigos organisation is building a virtual copy of the city centre. At its heart is Dam Square, where I join the men behind the enterprise, Roland Schreuder, Christian Tomat and Fernando Garcia Diaz. They see this very much as a local project designed to provide Netherlanders with an entirely new open forum, a sort of online 3D interactive newspaper.
The world could be like a newspaper in a way that the information, which is, because it's local, is very fresh. You know, people just walked on Dam Square and it was snowing, so they were talking about the snow and about the tram delays and traffic delays and so on. So it's local and very up to date, and people like that in a way. What we often see is that people, for example, well, that's the newspaper, for example, advertises about 2 new trendy restaurants in Amsterdam, and this journalist went there and he thinks they are the best places in town. Like, for example, in London you have famous places owned by Conrad, and they get always the good news. Well, in fact, the people who live in a city, they kind of like the other restaurants, and they are never in the news, and nobody knows about these restaurants, only the people who live there. But in this world, they will talk about it, and they will compare restaurants, and they will say, don't go there, you pay twice the price, and it's half the fun.
Everybody can choose their own avatar in 3D Amsterdam. And here's somebody is looking, he's got a suit on and a nice tie, and he's waving also. And the other guy, he looks pretty weird, he's got like a cat face. And behind her, there's walking a bird. It's like a 2-legged bird with a lot of red feathers and big eyes. Look, he's walking away from us. He must look pretty scary, our setup.
We figured it out a couple of nights ago. It's the first time we saw it. People kind of met on one place, for example Central Station, because it's also a bit of a square place with a lot of trams in front, and they actually started to do a race, meaning running. Who's the first to get from the Central Station to the terrace on the Herengracht, for example. And the guys all changed in the same avatar. They take the bird. The bird is funny, but it's very fast. So they're all the same. They all have the same advantage or disadvantage being the bird. And they count down from 10 to 0, and then they start racing. And one who gets in first wins, obviously. It's a running race through the cities of Amsterdam. And some try to fly, and some try to jump, and some try to use the control button, which makes it a bit faster. Some people don't know that. We don't tell them yet, but this is the little trick.
The pace of change in cyberspace is frenetic. Already the concept of typing conversation at the bottom of a screen is beginning to give way to a speech format, in which avatars move around a 3D world speaking to each other in real-world voices in real time via microphones attached to their computers. In California, Bruce Damer demonstrated. We're looking at the entrance space in Osgate for OnLive Traveller, and what we've got is a huge blinking head. I'm looking at a giant rabbit in 3D.
Hello, big boy. How are you doing today?
Hi, who are you?
This is Bruce Damer in California, and we're being interviewed on BBC Radio 3.
Really? This is my first time here. I just thought I'd try it.
So what do you think?
Not too bad at all.
You know, you can roll your head around and stuff. You just use the page up, page down keys, and you can roll your head.
We've now got a rolling rabbit's head. The big bunny has now gone into 360-degree spin. Learning as we speak.
How's that?
That's cool.
Well, after interfacing with Cyber Bunny, I needed a drink. And I'm in the right place, because there's no shortage of bars in cyberspace. I've ended up in Niall Boylan's local, back in Alpha World. Like me, Niall is a radio presenter, from Dublin in fact, and like me, he works mostly on nighttime shows. By day, he can be found here. Now, one thing's troubling me: sex. Virtual sex, what is it, and where can it be found?
The cyber sex, I mean, happens as it does on the internet all the time. I mean, it's just part of the internet. I mean, it's a natural thing, I suppose, when you get male and female together, but you could be having cyber sex with another man and you wouldn't even know it. But I mean, basically, they describe the actions of sex to each other using the keyboard. You can undress each other. I mean, it's all like a mental thing. It does get very, very intense as well. I mean, I've seen it in action. I'm not going to say I took part, but I did see it in action lots and lots of times. I mean, and they really get down to business. They start sharing their personal problems, their love life problems. Not only their love life problems in the real world, but their love life problems in Alpha World. Because people who don't know what Alpha World is, or who haven't ever been on Alpha World, it's very, very difficult to explain, but you're sitting behind a keyboard, and it actually becomes very, very real. I mean, you're sitting there and you've this animated character talking to another animated character, and you actually think it's you. I mean, you do really think it's you, and you can be anybody you want. So if you want the person that you're talking to be Cindy Crawford, well, she can be Cindy Crawford. She can be anybody you want her to be, because you don't know what she looks like. You don't even know what age she is. You don't know where she is, and you probably never will either.
Well, tempting though the opportunities of 3D worlds are, I'm heading back to the banal one I'm used to. We've only scratched the surface today of what's going on in these virtual universes, and although at the moment it may be a matter of potential rather than achievement, Moore's law states that computer capacity doubles every 18 months. 3 years from now, we may all be tourists in the virtual world.
In the future, I think that people will be able to explore distant planets from the information relayed by a satellite, or they'll be able to travel inside the human body.
I think that as the technology becomes more sophisticated, and as the people become more committed to non-physical realities, that you'll have them operating in those communities just the way they do in real ones. And to the degree that the technology makes that possible, I think you'll get human communities in virtual reality.
Everyone has their own view of the world, and what you're doing by building things is you're showing people the way you'd like to see the world, or the way you'd like to see yourself. I don't have a mansion, I don't have a swimming pool, but in here I do. I've got my own mansion now, I've got a swimming pool and a hot tub. I don't have that in real life.
Well, every once in a while we get in these goofy moods, and one evening I figured we would entertain them, and I started a flood that started at ground zero of Alpha World. And you had this water spout that started spouting out, and people started commenting about what's this water spout doing in the center of ground zero. And the water started spreading over their feet, and they're like wondering, where's this water coming from, what's doing it. Next thing you know, the entire Alpha World was flooded, was under about 3 or 4 feet of water. The citizens had no idea what was going on. The sky turned to a cloudy, rainy sky. They went to visit their houses, and they're saying, my God, my house is underwater, it's flooded. And we left it like that for about 2 hours, and no one really knew that we were here in the office just goofing off.